Good morning. Today is May 28th, 2014. We are interviewing Larry Perrine at the Adams County Courthouse. Larry is 67 years old, having been born on September 21st, 1946. My name is Jamie Fry, and I'll be the interviewer today. Larry, could you state for the recording what war and what branch of service you served in, please?
I was in the Army during the Vietnam conflict from 1966 to 1968.
And where specifically did you serve in Vietnam?
Well, I was never told where we were. We moved around quite a bit. We was in the term is boonies. We were out in the field 11 months out of the 12 that I was over there. And they say saddle up, and that's what we did. We just kept moving. So I really don't know where I was. My base was on K, Vietnam, but like I say, we were never there. So.
Did you get immersed in the culture where you were stationed?
No. That would require me eating rice and fish heads, and I didn't want to do that.
Did you bring any mementos back with you?
No, just memories.
What was your job or assignment?
I was a communications specialist. Radio equipment, I was a repairman, operator, lineman.
What specifically did you do as a communications specialist?
Repaired radios, set up relay stations wherever the troops needed communication. That's where my group was sent to set it up and keep everything operational.
What's a relay station?
The radios were FM. They shot straight line signals. So if you had troops on one side of a mountain and the rear battalion on the other side of the mountain, they couldn't communicate. So you would put a relay station on top of that hill so they could communicate. And then it was relayed. Radio operator would be on the relay station radio, and he would relay down to the other side so that both sides could communicate.
Did you see combat?
I did.
Were there casualties in your unit?
Some.
Did you sustain any injuries?
Lost my hearing in a mortar attack.
Were you a prisoner of war?
No.
Would you like to share any of your experiences about the casualties or injuries in your unit or your own?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was 19 when I first got there. 2 weeks after I was there, I was in somewhere, and it was during the monsoon, and we were in the field, and we hacked out a landing strip for C-130 cargo planes, and we were told to move one day, and we were required to hurry. So during the monsoon, it just rains day and night, and it's really miserable. And the C-130 that we loaded up with our radio equipment was overloaded, and I carried that responsibility for many years, that it couldn't get off the ground, and it just leveled that little village. And there was a lot of casualties there, none military, but little 6-year-old girl that we as a group kind of took under our wing was killed that day. And I was only in the country a couple of weeks, and I thought this might be the worst experience of my life. And so it really made an impression on me. But then we had a guy step on a landmine, and few months later, a friend of mine, a buddy, he didn't have friends, he didn't want to get too close, but someone I knew. And so, you know, you get those feelings that survival guilt, I think they call it now. But, you know, why not me? How come him? If I'd have been 50 feet over, that would have been me. You know, all that stuff goes through your head. So, anyway, I guess that's all I got to say about that.
Did you receive any medals or citations?
No, I could have if the Purple Heart I could have got, but I just didn't feel like my split eardrums was severe enough to, you know, other people deserve those medals more than me. So I got an in-country medal, and that's about it.
Can you share any battle planning with us?
No, I wasn't privileged to that.
How did you get along with the officers and your fellow soldiers?
Very well. We all had to get along because all we had was each other to protect one another. We just kind of bonded, you know. First name basis.
Did you feel pressure, stress, or anxiety?
Not really. When you're 19, you don't think you're going to die. You know? It's later on that you're, you know, hindsight, that you start questioning a lot of things. But at that moment, no, I was just doing my job, and I never thought about what if.
Did you keep a personal diary?
No.
Can you tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences?
I'll tell you about a miracle that you probably won't believe either. I was at LZ English, one of the largest landing zones. That's what LZ means for the choppers. I was with the 1st Camp Division. We were helicopter unit. But anyway, it got blown up one night. Our military ammo dump and our fuel dump and hospital and a lot of our choppers. So we were out in the middle of nowhere with no ammunition. And the next night I'm on radio duty, and we had a pony team which consists of three guys goes out a couple of 100 yards or so in front of the perimeter to kind of give us fair warning if the VC's coming in. So anyway, he reported back that there was an estimated regiment of VC approaching us 3,000 meters away. A regiment is about 900 people, and we have no ammunition. And a half hour later or so, he says they disappeared. So, you know, in the dark of night, you can see things moving about and so on, but 900 people don't just disappear. So I don't know what happened to them either, but I was incredibly grateful for that. But that was a very tense moment. So where they went, I don't know. It's just weird how that happened.
Sure.
So that sticks out in my mind. I'll never stop wondering what happened to those people. They just, of course, they were tunnel rats. Maybe they found a tunnel big enough for 900 people, but it was just odd that they knew we were setting ducks. And there was probably at least 1,000 of us at that LZ. And, you know, they just could have walked in, but they disappeared. And somewhere there's a record of that, because I wrote it down while I was on. You know, you had to write down everything that came across the radio waves. So somewhere, if they haven't destroyed it, there's a record of that night. So.
Were you able to keep in touch with your family?
Just through letters.
Did you or do you have something special that you used for good luck?
I had a silver dollar my grandmother gave me. I can't remember how old I was when she gave me that, but I carried that everywhere. And I lost it over there, so.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
Yeah.
What was the food like?
Sea rations. Sea rations.
What are sea rations?
They're just canned food. You can eat them hot or cold. Ham and beans, scrambled eggs, and ham. That was a treat. And little biscuits and cheese, things like that. It was sustaining. It just didn't taste that great. And a lot of times they'd figure out a way to get a hot meal to you. You know, if you're in the rear, you get a hot meal, and it was okay.
How did you keep yourself entertained?
Well, just playing poker with the guys, writing letters home.
Were there any entertainers that came to see your units?
Bob Hope came, but I chose not to go. And then we had a couple of different groups that came over from Korea that performed, and I chose not to go. I didn't want to be reminded of things back home. You know, I wanted to get my year done. You know, they give you 2-week R&R. You could go to Japan or other places if you wanted to, and I turned that down too. I just wanted to not be reminded of home and just get my year in and get out of there.
What did you do when you took leave?
Well, as I just stated, I
Didn't take any leave.
No.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual event?
I might get court-martialed for this, but in 1967, New Year's Eve, I didn't drink at all until I got home, except for New Year's Eve, 1967. And we had a couple of MPs that was going into town, a little village, so we had them pick us up a couple of fists of whiskey. And I probably really shouldn't tell you this. We were me and 3 of my buddies were on guard duty, and we got liquored up, and we come down off of our post and went down into where everybody was sleeping and started Christmas caroling. You know, in World War II, we'd have probably been court-martialed and shot, but our first sergeant just screamed at us rather loudly to get the hell back up on the hill and mind your business. And we were drunk. We had no business being on guard duty. As luck would have it, it turned out great. But that was a shining moment in my
career. What were some of the pranks that you or others would pull?
Well, there really wasn't any, other than that drinking episode.
Did you bring any photos with you today that you would like to tell us about?
I did not, and I meant to, but no.
Do you recall the day that your service ended?
I do.
Where were you?
I think we were, well, first of all, they let us, if you had 2 weeks left in country, they got you back to base, which was okay. Took your weapon and all the paraphernalia you needed to survive, and let you just hang out for 2 weeks. Well, then we went to Pleiku and boarded a plane for San Francisco. And I remember it vividly like yesterday. First thing I wanted when I got on board was milk. Never had that while I was over there. Well, that quickly changed when I saw somebody a few seats down had a half a gallon of whiskey. So we all got Coke. And 17 hours later, we were in San Francisco.
How did you get home from San Francisco?
Plane to St. Louis.
Did your family pick you up in St. Louis?
No, I flew from St. Louis into Quincy Airport.
Had the war come to an end, or had you simply fulfilled your military service?
You mean war come to an end?
Was
Memories,
was the war over, or were you just done with your service?
Oh, I was
when
just
you were...
done.
Okay.
Yes, yes. I came home in August of '67.
Were others discharged with you?
You know, we had a plane full of people, but I really don't know. None of them were from my unit.
What did you do in the days and weeks after you got out of the service?
Totally got out of the service. I found me a job and got married.
Did you start back at your job, or did you start a new career?
I started a new career.
And what career was that?
That was with Buter's Baking Company. I was a route salesman.
Where was that?
Pardon me?
Where was that?
Here in Quincy.
Did you ever go back to school?
No.
Did you make any close friendships while you were in the service?
No.
Do you keep in contact with anybody from the service?
No.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
Nope.
How have your service experiences affected your life?
Made me extremely independent. I don't ask anybody to help me with anything. Stand on my own 2 feet type of guy, I guess.
Has anyone ever thanked you for serving our country?
That started about 2 years ago. But the first 40 years was tough, but it's better now. People didn't like Vietnam veterans in the 60s or 70s or 80s.
When you say the first 40 years was tough, what happened during that time period?
I became paranoid and distrustful with all people simply because coming home from Vietnam was when my war started, on account of the hatefulness of the people, the name calling, it was so bad. My youngest child was in high school before any of my 4 kids knew I was a veteran. I kept that a big secret. I overprotected my family. If we went to Disney World, my job was to make sure my family wasn't harmed. That's kind of the way I took everything. So I never had a lot of fun my first 43 years after I got back, but things are a lot better now. So, and occasionally I do get thanked, like on Veterans Day, or I got a hat I just purchased. I take that back, my wife purchased, and it says Vietnam on it. And when I wear that, once in a great while, somebody will say thanks. But and I'm not feeling sorry for myself. That was just the way it was. And those anti-war people were people with agendas too. And who knows, maybe that's the reason the war got stopped, So they had a reason for what they did.
How does it make you feel when someone tells you thank you for your service?
It makes me feel, if a grown man can say it, it makes me feel warm inside. It does. It just, because I know they mean it,
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general?
I think not all wars, but some wars are necessary. World War II was necessary. World War One. But hindsight with Vietnam, there was no reason for us to even be there. I didn't think so at the time, but I do now. So I think United States needs to choose their battles, so to speak. They don't need to be everywhere and control everything. And you know, the minute, almost literally, the minute the U.S. military evacuated Vietnam, the war ended. And now it's a place people can go. It's a vacation resort. Vietnam is. You can go there and enjoy life like you do in the Caribbean. We shouldn't have been there, in my opinion. I'm not hateful about it at all, but I just think, for what it's worth, I think we need to pay more attention to what our duty is in the world rather than just jump in somebody else's war. That's my opinion.
Would you encourage young men and women today to enlist?
Yes,
Why?
because I think it builds character. I think it will help you through life itself. What you are trained for and what you learn, discipline. I think it ought to be mandatory. Once you get out of high school, you should spend a minimum of 2 years in some sort of military branch before you go on to college. But that's just my thought. But it does build character.
Is your view of government the same before and after your years of service?
No.
How has it changed?
I think the government's corrupted. I think there's too many greedy people at the top. And I think there are personal agendas from the president on down, rather than government of the people. It's government for the politicians. That's my belief. Again, I'm not hateful about it. You know, I kind of live and let. I can't do anything about it. It's still the best country in the world to live in, and I'm certainly not going to bash it. But in 1960s and even the 70s, you had a tremendous amount of respect for the president and your politicians. If you didn't like them, you voted them out. Now it just seems like everybody hates everybody, and it's just not the same as it was.
How do you feel about how war is depicted in movies?
Well, I think it's mostly lies, but after all, they take literary license in order to fill the theaters, so it's just a movie, but it is nowhere near truthful.
Are there any movies that have an accurate depiction of war?
I don't think I've ever watched one. I hear about them and I put my 2 cents in. But as far as going to see one, I just haven't.
What is your opinion of the history of wars taught in school today?
I think, again, it's a bunch of lies. I think the government creates us, meaning the United States, as everyone's hero. And we're not much different than any other country, you know. We have agendas, whatever that agenda is, to get, maybe we got a specific guy we want to put in as president of Egypt, for instance. So we fight for that side. It's just I've lost my train of thought. I apologize.
Okay. What do you think specifically about the way that schools teach students about the Vietnam War?
I really don't know that a lot was taught about the Vietnam War. I know we were depicted as good guys, but I'm sure the Vietnamese are depicted as good guys in their books. Um, you know, uh, I just don't think the truth is ever out there, because there's some bad things that happen. I'm sure I wasn't a part of it, but you don't hear about it till years later, you know. And it's not in the history books. You won't find the My Lai massacre in a history book, because that makes the United States look evil. You won't find that. So I don't think truth is ever told. I think it's told according to what they want our children to know, and that's just what it's based on. You know.
What is the most positive thing you took away from your experience in the service?
Camaraderie. Um, I guess that's it.
What is the most negative?
The most negative, as far as my war experience is concerned, is nobody wins. Two countries decide they want one thing, and they draw up a battle plan and throw a bunch of guys on the battlefield. Both sides think they're right. Nobody wins.
There's one thing I wanted to ask you about. You said since getting out of the service, looking back, you thought that we shouldn't have been in Vietnam.
Right.
At the time you went to Vietnam, was that your opinion?
No. I felt like we were saving the Vietnamese people from a horrible government. I felt like they were being taken over by Russia. And it turns out when I got there, even the Vietnamese didn't like us. We were the invading army. We were hated by American people. We were hated by the Vietnamese. And naturally, the Viet Cong hated us. We were just kind of on a fence. And that was quite a shock to me. It took me a month or two to realize that. But, you know, when I was young enough, I thought I'd go to Vietnam and I'd be a hero. You know, everybody'd be so happy to see us that we're going to free them. Well, these people didn't know there was a war going on. They lived in the middle of nowhere, third world country, no electricity, no TV, no nothing. They were just rice farmers. They didn't know a war was going on. So they hated us. So I kind of realized a couple of years or so after I got home that, you know, I could have been killed anytime by anybody. Nobody wanted us over there. So, yeah, it was a wake-up call.
Is there anything else that you would like to tell us today that I haven't already asked you about?
I think you covered it. Sorry, I'm not a better interviewee, but.
Oh, you did just great.
Well,
Thank you for being with us today.